Hi everybody, it's Miss Brenda again, and today we are going to do a special worship, and this one is going to talk to us about how we were made to love God and talk about what sin is. We've never really talked about that, so we're going to talk about that today. We Were Made to Love the Lord is a brand new song to you guys, so I'm going to sing it and show you the pictures as we go along. It goes like this. We were made to love the Lord, love the Lord, love the Lord. We were made to love the Lord. That's what we were made for. God made birds to fill the sky. God made frogs to eat the flies. God made owls to just look wise. But we were made to love the Lord. Yes, we were made to love the Lord. Love the Lord. Love the Lord. We were made to love the Lord. That's what we were made for. God made fish to fill the seas. God made squirrels to climb the trees. God made dogs to carry fleas. Oh no! But we were made to love the Lord. Yes, we were made to love the Lord. Love the Lord. Love the Lord. We were made to love the Lord. That's what we were made for. God made foxes to just be tricky. God made worms to be so sticky. God made spiders to just be icky. But we were made to love the Lord. Yes, we were made to love the Lord. Love the Lord. Love the Lord. We were made to love the Lord. That's what we were made for. We were made to love the Lord, love the Lord, love the Lord. We were made to love the Lord. That's what we were made for. Awesome. Did you catch on to that? We'll sing that a lot so you can come to know it really well. So let's talk about how God made everything and how God made us. Today we're going to be using the Beginner's Bible to take a look at some different stories. We're going to kind of go through a timeline of what God has done for us. So in the beginning there was nothing at all. But God made light, and then He made the water and the sky. He made all kinds of plants and trees with fruit and food on them. He made all the animals, and He made a man, and that man's name was Adam. There's Adam, and he's in the garden with all the trees and the flowers and some of the animals. God had Adam name the animals, but Adam couldn't find anybody to be his friend. So God made a woman, and her name was Eve. They lived in the beautiful garden together, and they actually got to walk in the garden with God every day. They had a personal relationship with God, and they could talk to Him and be friends with Him. There was one tree, this tree right here. There was one tree that God said, don't eat the fruit off of that tree. That was God's one and only rule for Adam and Eve. Otherwise, they could live peacefully in the garden. They could be with the animals. They could eat all the other fruits and plants that were growing. But He said, do not eat of the fruit of that tree. That was God's rule. And there's the tree again. One day, Adam and Eve disobeyed. and they ate that fruit. It looked so good to them that they went ahead and ate it. And look at Adam's face. Look at his face once he realizes what he's done, because he's eaten some of that fruit. Oh, Adam and Eve heard God walking through the garden, and he was looking for them. But they hid in the trees. Look at their faces. They were afraid. They knew they had done wrong. And God said, "What have you done? Did you eat the fruit from the forbidden tree?" They had eaten fruit from the forbidden tree. And because they broke God's rule, they had to leave that lovely garden. They couldn't live there anymore. God made clothes for them, and he sent them out of the garden. Everything was perfect in the garden, but when they left, nothing was really perfect anymore. They had each other, but they had to work really hard to get the ground to grow food for them to eat. That was sin. When they chose to disobey God, they had sinned. Disobeyed God. Well, God wanted to have a relationship. We were made to love him. And Adam and Eve had broken that relationship by disobeying God. God wanted to make a way so that he could have a relationship with us. That's when he sent Jesus as a baby. Look at those pictures. You remember the story? Mary was Jesus' mother, and they were on a trip, and there was nowhere else for them to stay. And so Mary and Joseph stayed in the barn with the animals, and that was a nice warm place to stay. And that's where baby Jesus was born. Jesus' job was to grow up and to teach people what God was like. Jesus was God's son. Jesus was showing everybody what God was like by the way he acted and the things that he did. Do you remember that Jesus healed the paralyzed man? His friends took him up and down through the roof, and Jesus said, "Get up and walk." And what did he do? The paralyzed man got up and walked. Look at that. He's kicking his legs around. Now his legs work. Jesus healed him. He could do that because he was God. He had that power. Jesus was showing the people what God was like. Do you remember the story about Jesus being asleep in the boat? And there was a big storm, and Jesus' friends had to wake him up, and they said, "Why aren't you scared? Why aren't you awake? Don't you care?" And Jesus stood up and he said, "Stop wind, stop waves." And Jesus' friends said, "Who is this Jesus? Even the winds and the waves obey him." Only God could do something like that. And Jesus was God. All right. I think that's all we'll look at in there today. So Jesus' job was to come to earth and make a way for us to be able to be friends with God again. That's what he did. What we just looked at is what Jesus did as a grown-up. And then something very special happened, and that's the story of Easter. So tomorrow, when you come back, we're going to have Easter worship number 7. And we'll look for the number 7 egg in the basket. I don't see it right now, but I think it's in there. We'll find it, and we'll find out the first part of the story of Easter. Easter is all about how Jesus made a way for us to be friends with God again, just like Adam and Eve were in the garden. It's pretty exciting stuff. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But let's sing a song before we go. You want to clap your hands and sing to the Lord? Let's do it.
You have got to be the silliest people I have ever met in my life. Come on, let's sing, everybody. This is fun. Do it now.
Clap your hands and sing to the Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Clap your hands and sing to the Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. fingers, sing to the Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Snap your fingers, sing to the Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Lift your hands and sing to the Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Lift your hands and sing to the Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Hallelujah, 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 amen. All right, bye. I'll see you tomorrow for worship, Easter worship number 7. See you then. Bye-bye.